Hey friends, before we get started, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe, like, and leave a comment. It would help the video out a lot, and it's an easy thing for you to do but means a lot to us. Thanks in advance. At 3:15 in the morning, I woke up to this awful screeching from upstairs. It felt like the neighbors above decided to have a total showdown in the dead of night. And this was just 4 hours before my Monday workday. I should mention that this family was something else, always drunk, and you could smell the guy from 200 meters away, like a mix of sweat and booze. His wife, a big woman, was always throwing fits, smashing dishes, and tossing their stinky junk out the window. Then there was their 20-year-old son, Ivan, who had Down syndrome. His favorite thing was running around the hallway, pressing the doorbells of all the apartments. It seemed to give him some serious joy. Grumbling about something inappropriate, I dragged myself out of bed, went to the kitchen, flipped on the light, lit a cigarette, and drank a glass of water while staring out the window. It was a warm summer night, full of stars. The streets were completely empty, but of course, it was 4 a.m. What struck me as odd was the silence after the screaming that woke me up. Aside from that, it was dead quiet. Tossing the cigarette butt out the window, I made my way back to bed. I buried myself under the blankets, eager to slip back into my sweet dreams that had nothing to do with Monday. But just as I was about to close my eyes, crash! A loud bang came from upstairs, like something heavy had fallen. I thought the ceiling would cave in. Some plaster even dropped onto my bed. "What the hell?" I muttered, getting up and yanking on my jeans. My mood was foul. I just wanted to sleep. But no, I had to check on the drunkards upstairs. When I opened the door, I found the hallway completely dark. There was no light, and since it was still night, I couldn't see a thing. The bulb must have blown again. Grabbing a flashlight from the nightstand, I headed out for my little midnight adventure. Up one floor, I stopped at the shabby wooden door of that cursed family. Light peeked through the peephole from the inside. I hesitated for a second, then rang the doorbell. No response. I pressed it again. Still nothing. Whatever, I muttered and was about to turn around and leave when I saw something through the peephole. A dim light reflected off eyes. Someone was standing on the other side of the door, staring right at me. Finally, I thought, assuming one of them would open up and explain the racket. But nothing happened. I stood there in the dark hallway, flashlight in hand, fully aware someone was watching me from behind the door. Feeling uneasy, I stepped back. It was time to get back to my apartment. I turned to leave. Climbing the stairs, flashlight in hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was staring at me from behind. I wanted to run, but kept telling myself I'd been through enough weirdness with this family before. Still, as I took the first step down, something made my blood freeze. The door next to me creaked open slightly. I stopped, feeling the tension in the air. My heart raced. Gathering all the courage I could muster, I turned around and shined the flashlight at the door. It was ajar. "Is anyone there?" I called, trying to sound casual, but my voice shook. No answer. After a few tense moments, I decided there was nothing to find and hurried back to my apartment. Locking the door behind me, I crawled into bed, trying to shake off the unease. I chuckled to myself. Here I was, a 27-year-old man, getting spooked by the dark and some drunk neighbors. Just as I started to drift off, the doorbell rang. Instantly, all the humor drained from the situation. It took me just a couple of seconds to get to the door. Through the peephole, I saw their son, Ivan, standing there. He was pressing the doorbell with one hand and digging in his nose with the other. Honestly, I couldn't help but laugh a little. Seeing him there was almost comforting. It would have been much worse if there was no one, like a cliché horror movie. Another ring jolted me back, and I double-checked before opening the door. "What do you want?" I asked, stepping out. Ivan, seemingly in his own world, was busy pulling something out of his nose and eating it. I nearly gagged. I grabbed him by the hand and pulled him inside, locking the door behind us. In the pitch black, Ivan started making strange, unsettling noises. It was clear he didn't want to go home, but he wasn't resisting either. As we reached his apartment, I noticed the front door was wide open, but inside, it was shrouded in complete darkness. We stopped about 2 meters from the entrance. The silence hung thickly, broken only by Ivan's heavy breathing. Suddenly, a chill ran down my spine as the air grew heavy with an unshakable sense of dread. I glanced at Ivan. He was staring intently into the dark doorway, his face twisted with tension. "Dad," he whispered, his voice echoing in the eerie silence. Then, nothing. I squinted, hoping to catch a glimpse of something, anything, in the shadows, but the darkness was absolute. "Come on, Ivan, let's go back," I murmured, gently nudging him as I took a cautious step backward. But Ivan remained rooted in place, eyes fixed on the void. Just as I was about to turn and flee, he looked at me, his voice disturbingly calm, and said, "I didn't want to, but Dad ate Mom." He burst into laughter, a sound so twisted it felt like it echoed off the walls. My heart pounded as I stared, trying to process what he had just said. Slowly, I backed toward the stairs, but Ivan's laugh turned into incoherent mumbling, a blend of sounds that made my skin crawl. As I reached the first step, a sudden, sharp noise came from behind. Ivan's silhouette blurred, fading into the darkness. Then silence. His heavy breathing stopped. My foot slipped on the first step as I kept my gaze locked on the dim hallway, my senses on edge. A scuffle broke the silence, followed by the eerie absence of his breathing. My nerves frayed, and in a surge of terror, I spun around and sprinted down the stairs, gripping the railing so hard I nearly twisted my wrist. Pain shot through my ankle, but I forced myself onward. When I reached the landing, footsteps echoed from their apartment above, each step sending a fresh wave of dread down my spine. The urgency surged as I bolted toward my apartment, every fiber of my being screaming for safety. My hands shook as I fumbled for my keys, the clutter in my pocket slowing me down. Garage key, storage, vacation home. I muttered curses under my breath, the footsteps growing louder with each passing second. Whoever it was had come down to my floor, their footsteps echoing louder with each second. My hands were shaking, panic clawing at my chest. Desperately, I wished for the nightmare to end, for the lights to flicker on and chase away the shadows. Then, piercing through the silence, a scream tore through the air. With trembling fingers, I finally jammed the key into the lock, twisting it just in time. I shoved the door open, rushed inside, and slammed it shut. I leaned against the door, chest heaving as I tried to catch my breath. I was safe now, or so I thought. Reaching to lock the door, I froze mid-motion. About 10 feet away, standing in the hallway, was a figure cloaked in darkness. The air felt thick, every breath strained as I realized they were breathing heavily, the sound labored and menacing. Then the smell hit me, foul, rotten, like something decaying. It made my stomach twist, the scent more putrid than anything I'd ever encountered. The figure remained completely still, unmoving, but the tension between us was suffocating. My heart hammered as I reached blindly for the light switch on the wall, but as my fingers brushed it, the figure stepped forward, crossing the threshold into my apartment. My pulse thundered in my ears as I flicked on the light. What I saw nearly made me pass out. His hair was patchy, either yanked out in clumps or withered away. His skin was ghostly pale, almost translucent, with deep blue veins snaking beneath the surface. His eyes were empty, pure black with no whites, no irises, just dark pits staring back. Blood soaked his clothes, dripping from his open mouth, staining the floor. His teeth were broken, jagged, with some gaps where they'd fallen out. The look on his face was one of pure madness, twisted and deranged, and in his grip was something, a severed, bloodied hand. It was his wife's hand. We locked eyes, frozen in place for a moment that stretched endlessly, but lasted only seconds. Then he let out a sound, a low, primal growl like a feral animal. Instantly, a voice screamed in my head, "Run!" I slammed the door shut, gripping the handle with every ounce of strength I had. He roared and lunged at the door, but he didn't reach for the handle. Instead, he scratched it with his nails, pounded his head against it, and even tried gnawing at the wood like a wild beast. I held the door, my entire body pressed against it, as he growled and clawed, his feral sounds filling the hallway from the other side. Time passed in a blur. I'm not sure how long I stood there, holding onto the door with every ounce of strength. Eventually, the first hint of morning crept through the cracks. Then I heard the soft creak of my elderly neighbor's door opening in the hallway. With a surge of desperation, I shouted, "Run!" as loudly as I could. For a moment, the growling on the other side stopped. Then my neighbor's scream tore through the silence, cut short, leaving only an eerie quiet. I don't know how long I sat there after that, my mind blank with shock. Eventually, the apartment was silent, the terror hanging like a dark mist in the air. And then, the door creaked open. The police arrived, their eyes full of suspicion. They labeled me as a suspect, though they had nothing concrete. My elderly neighbor was found with her throat slashed, lifeless in a pool of blood. Upstairs, they discovered the bodies of the drunk man and his son, Ivan. Ivan's face wore a twisted, foolish grin, his head turned at an impossible angle, his eyes empty, but they never found my other neighbor. Somewhere out there in the dark, he still wanders, like a stray dog in search of prey. And you all already know what his favorite meal is.